Why does Cole Palmer only seem to shine when the weight of the world is on his shoulders, and then go invisible in games where nothing much is at stake? It doesn't add up. One moment, he's the most electrifying young player in England. The next, he looks like he can't hit the target in 10 tries. For some fans, this makes him a genius who only thrives under pressure. For others, it makes him inconsistent, lucky, maybe even overrated. But no matter what camp you're in, you can't deny that Palmer's story is one of the strangest rise and fall and rise again journeys in football today. To really understand it, you have to follow the full arc, from the memes to the trophies, from the cruelest dips to the highest stages in the sport. And by the end, one question will keep nagging at you. Is this chaos a weakness, or Palmer's greatest weapon? The public meltdown and fan backlash. Football creates heroes and villains faster than Hollywood ever could. One missed chance, one strange action, and your reputation flips overnight. For Palmer, this nightmare came in March. In the middle of a match, cameras caught him sprinting off the pitch, straight down the tunnel. Within minutes, fans on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram had turned him into a meme. Palmer runs more outside the pitch than inside it. Maybe he's running to Saudi Arabia. You can't trust this guy to finish a match, never mind a season. It was savage. The court of public opinion doesn't wait for context. It delivers judgment instantly. And its label for Cole Palmer? Finished. But here's the insane part. Just weeks later, in a final Chelsea absolutely needed to win, Palmer turned into a different beast. 2 assists in 5 minutes. Game turned on its head. Chelsea saved. The same people who mocked him were now arguing over whether he was Chelsea's savior. It didn't make sense. A fraud 1 month, a hero the next. This was no ordinary slump and recovery story. It was something else entirely. The clutch player nobody understood. Football careers usually follow arcs. Players get good, then plateau, then decline. Palmer didn't fit that script. His pattern was stranger. He would disappear for months. Weeks stretched into a half year where it looked like he'd lost his magic. Then, suddenly, like flipping a switch, he would unleash devastating performances in the biggest matches. Look at the Club World Cup final. At that point, Palmer had gone 28 matches without scoring from open play. By any normal standard, that's catastrophic. But on the world stage, against PSG, Palmer delivered one of the most outrageous displays Chelsea had seen in years. Goals, an assist, pulling strings everywhere. PSG players lost their heads at the final whistle because one young midfielder had dismantled them. For fans, it was maddening. How could Palmer look so ordinary 1 month, then world-class the next? Was he lazy? Was he inconsistent? Or was he simply born for finals? Someone whose blood runs colder under the brightest lights. To understand that paradox, we need to rewind to his beginnings. Because Palmer's contradictions didn't start at Chelsea. They started years earlier under Pep Guardiola's shadow. Origins under Pep and the Guardiola shadow. Cole Palmer was never supposed to carry Chelsea. His development took place in Manchester, under the microscope of Pep Guardiola's system at City. Now, City's academy is unforgiving. Precision matters. Every pass is engineered, every angle studied. For creative players, it can be both a blessing and a curse. You learn discipline, but sometimes at the cost of freedom. Palmer thrived as a teenager, but when it came time for City's first team, he never locked in. Why? Critics said Guardiola's obsession with perfection froze him out. He wasn't bad. He was just not Pep perfect. At City, that's enough to bury you. When Palmer left for Chelsea, fans were split. One group saw a gem unfairly overlooked. Another saw a prospect who would crash under pressure. And when Enzo Maresca, Pep's old lieutenant, took charge at Chelsea, many feared the exact same system that stifled Palmer in Manchester would stifle him again. But then something surprising happened. Instead of shrinking, Palmer boomed. The sudden explosion. Within weeks, Palmer was hoisting Chelsea into headlines again. Goals, hat tricks, assists raining in. Commentators were calling him the league's most electrifying young talent. The records came rolling too. Fastest hat trick streaks. Youngest player to hit certain milestone numbers. comparisons to Hazard and Lampard. Maresca himself declared him the best player in the Premier League at the time. Fans were starting to believe Palmer wasn't just a prospect. He was something bigger. But football always balances the scales, and Palmer's rise would soon collide with a wall. 6 months of cold silence. All the hype in the world couldn't hide the facts. Palmer stopped scoring from open play. Not for a few games, not for a month, but for nearly half a year. 6 months of painful drought. Fans online sharpened their knives. Penalty merchant, overhyped rookie, rival fans trolled nonstop. For Chelsea fans, defending him became harder every week. Pundits piled on. Some said defenders had figured him out. Others claimed he was simply fatigued, burned out by Chelsea's reliance on him. Another theory blamed his teammates, most loudly Nicholas Jackson, who squandered the chances Palmer created. But the harshest line stuck to him. Palmer was nothing without penalties. And cruelly, even those deserted him next. The penalty miss and fitness breakdown. For nearly 2 straight years, Palmer was flawless from the spot. His penalties weren't just routine. They were art, calm, composed, inevitable. And then the disaster. In March, Palmer missed his first penalty. The ball stayed out, and with it, his invincible aura cracked. Rival fans flooded the internet. It's over, the mask has fallen. Behind the scenes, Palmer wasn't even fit. Fever, fatigue, stomach issues so rough he was spotted sprinting for the tunnel after being subbed. Days later, he picked up his first real injury, ruled out for weeks. The timing was awful. Chelsea were clinging to Champions League hopes, and their talisman was hobbling. The collapse of his penalty streak was symbolic. The one strength nobody could take away from him now lay in ruins. But here's what makes Cole Palmer different. Where most players crumble, Palmer seems to recharge under humiliation. The tactical tug-of-war. One of the biggest debates around Palmer wasn't about his ability. It was about the system that contained him. Under Pochettino, Chelsea played fast, chaotic football, heavy on counterattacks. That style suited Palmer perfectly. He thrived in open space. But under Maresca, the tempo slowed into patient possession, side-to-side passing, build slowly, suffocate the game. It didn't play to Palmer's chaos-driven energy. Fans knew it. Charts proved it. Under Poch, Palmer's expected goals on fast breaks spiked. Under Maresca, they collapsed. Critics blamed the manager. He was turning Palmer into a pawn in a rigid plan. But Maresca refused this idea. He kept repeating, "It's mental, not tactical." Same player, same system, same role. Palmer was just in his own head. The truth? Probably a bit of both. But football doesn't wait for debates. It forces answers on the pitch. And eventually, Palmer found one. The revival. Against Liverpool, with Champions League spots on the line, Palmer turned the narrative upside down. He didn't just score from the spot. He controlled the match, created 4 big chances, hit the post, ran every minute like a general. Suddenly, his critics quieted. For the first time, Palmer looked at ease in Maresca's slower system. Instead of waiting for chaos, he bent possession into something dangerous. Then came the Conference League final. Another spotlight, another do-or-die scenario. Palmer didn't just show up. He dominated, dictating tempo, slicing defenses, assisting twice, and walking away with the man of the match. It wasn't the old Palmer, it was a new one, evolving, adapting, learning that the stage didn't need to be big for him to shine. Or maybe, the stage is always big when Palmer decides it is. And then came the biggest moment yet. The Club World Cup and a rivalry with PSG. The Club World Cup wasn't just another tournament. For Chelsea, it carried weight. They'd stumbled since their last Champions League win, burning through coaches, investors, and players. This was about respect. For Palmer, it was the ultimate proving ground. And he delivered the performance of his life. Against PSG, Palmer unleashed everything. When PSG sat deep, he dissected them with slow, calculated passes. When they pressed high, he slashed them apart on the counter. 2 goals, 1 assist, a demolition job from a kid who was being called overhyped only months earlier. The result? Man of the match, world champion. The Empire State Building glowing Chelsea blue. The memes had vanished. The doubts were muted. For the first time, everyone had to admit it. Palmer might not just be Chelsea's future. He might be England's, too. Comparisons with legends. What makes Palmer's story more compelling is how quickly he stacks up statistically against Chelsea icons. Drogba needed 67 matches to score 30 goals for the club. Hazard needed 88. Palmer? 46, with far more assists. It wasn't a one-off hot streak. These were numbers that placed him among the elite of Chelsea history, at an age where most players are still proving themselves in cups and cameos. And yet, the contradictions lingered. How could someone this effective endure such long droughts? Was he carrying the team or hiding inside it? Every stat suggested greatness. Every drought suggested struggle. Palmer was simultaneously breaking records and breaking hearts. And that duality is why his story mesmerizes fans more than polished prodigies. Conclusion: the paradox of Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer is football's strangest paradox. He can vanish for 6 months, then torch PSG on the world stage. He can be ridiculed as a penalty merchant, then stack numbers alongside Chelsea's greatest ever attackers. He can sprint off mid-match under a cloud of memes, then walk back under stadium lights as a world champion. Maybe this isn't inconsistency. Maybe this is his identity. Some players exist to pad stats, to thrive in ordinary games week after week. Palmer isn't that. He exists for chaos, for finals, for games that decide reputation. His blood is coldest when the fire is hottest. And if that's true, then the question isn't whether Palmer is overrated or underrated. The real question is, what happens when the biggest stage of all comes calling? Champions League finals, England in major tournaments, the eyes of the world. Because history already told us, that's when Palmer becomes the monster nobody is prepared for. So maybe it's time to stop asking whether Cole Palmer is inconsistent and start worrying about what happens when his chaos finally collides with destiny.